Hey, somebody's got to find my tackle box. You did? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to the Professional Noticer.
Hey, Bart. Suppose they asked you if you can sing a cappella. What do you do?
Well, I do it.
Here, you and I will use common sense and all the wisdom we can muster to move beyond what is true and go all the way to the truth.
A cappella, a cappella.
With actual listeners in more than 100 countries, I am the Professional Noticer.
You mind telling me what this is all about, mister?
Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thank you for making me a part of your week. As the Professional Noticer, it's my job to notice things professionally and do them for you. Nothing's off limits. We tackle everything, even the odd conundrum, like what will you actually find at the end of a rainbow? The letter W, of course. Look, my purpose here today and with every show we do is to play the part of a best friend or coach. I want to help you live the life you would live if all your toughest questions were answered. Our sponsor this week is Tucker ATV, the small town business with a national reputation. Tucker ATV, they're just, they have gone from being a sponsor to just friends. I'm just telling you, Shannon and Lisa Tucker, wait till you meet them. You're going to love them. You need to join them on Facebook. It's just this beautiful place that's on Highway 43 North in Jackson, Alabama. Now, you may say, where is Jackson, Alabama? And I'm not sure that I could go to Jackson, Alabama to buy an ATV or Hustler lawn equipment or Echo power tools. I'm not sure I could go to Jackson, Alabama to do that. Well, people from 14 states have. And why? Really because of Shannon and Lisa Tucker. You talk about customer service making the difference. It is just an unbelievable fact of life at Tucker ATV. And the place itself is just special. I mean, people drive out of their way just to stop in, go to the indoor porch. There is an indoor porch that has a porch swing and free coffee and a television and bookshelves and comfortable chairs. There's taxidermy all over the place, including a deer mount that won the world championship. I mean, literally, there's a deer mount that's done by the guy who won the world championship. His name's Clint Ricky, and this is Ricky Ridge Taxidermy up in Wisconsin, and so he has this displayed there. And so if you want to see a piece of taxidermy done by the best in the world, you can see it right there at Tucker ATV. And they've got there's an antique display, as well as every Polaris vehicle you ever thought about having. This is just the greatest place. You got to stop. Join them on Facebook. Read what Lisa writes. It's always funny. And so that is our friends. Tucker ATV, Highway 43 North in Jackson, the small town business with the national reputation. Observations and answers, that's what we do here on the Professional Noticer. And we like to bring you the best, the very best in those who have answers and who make observations that'll make a difference in your life. Today is a guest. I have known this guest for 20 years, I think, 20 years. And I have watched as this guy has just like ice skated up the ladder to the top. And when I say to the top, I'm not meaning, I'm not meaning this metaphorically. Globalgurus.org rated our guest today the #1 sales trainer in the world. And if that weren't impressive enough, you ought to go look at the list and see who 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, you may not recognize this name, but you will recognize the names that are, down in the top 10 or 15. But #1 sales trainer in the world. And Then a few months later, globalgurus.org rated his corporate sales training program and boot camp the #1 in the world. Please welcome Joe Peachy. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Andy, and I'll tell you what, I was just counting. We've known each other 28 yeyears.
Is it 28? Oh, my gosh.
We've gotten older.
Well, you certainly have. I feel I had a birthday the other day. Somebody asked me how old I was. I said, I'm 83. I'm 83 and feeling every bit of it. But man, I am so, every time I see you, every time I talk to you, I am more proud of you than the last time. And it's not necessarily because of everything that you continue to accomplish. I think a lot of it is because I know you as a person, and sometimes we are cynical in our society, and we feel like they have to do something underhanded or have to be sneaky or have to be ahead of the game or some way to kind of make it to the top of the pile. But knowing your character and knowing your family, I think that just makes me doubly, triply proud of you and everything you've accomplished. Dude, #1 sales trainer in the world. Good grief.
Yeah, we're humbled, we're excited, and we're surprised. Because as you said, when you look at the list 2 through 30, they spend a whole lot of money on advertising and ads and unbelievable amounts of money, and we don't.
No, you don't. You are word of mouth.
We're also more than that. That's where, our smallest amount of business comes from referrals, believe it or not.
Really? Okay, so you are not word of mouth.
No, we're more. I think a couple things have happened here. My wife.
Well, you actually do. You prove what you preach.
Every day.
Yeah, because you actually do it. You don't just talk about it. That's how you build your own business. Keep going, though. I'm sorry to interrupt.
What we did was when we moved into this space, we looked at the world of sales training per se. And we saw the majority of sales trainers that were greatly gifted and talented spent a lot of time on motivation, strategy, or theory.
Sure.
So I said, Dawn, we're coming to the party late. We had better be what we say we are. And we better, when we go into a client, they have got to be able to qualify and metric the results. Now, years later, Andy and I renew our relationship. And one of the first things you said to me was, can your clients measure what you do? That was one of the first things you said to me. And Dawn and I looked at each other and smiled. So we only train and speak and coach on what we educate, what we do every day. I make calls. I generate leads. Dawn is ranked in the top 10 women on LinkedIn to follow. LinkedIn is 32% of our business. And LinkedIn is the single most important marketing tool we use to get this award.
Now, see, I know that most people have heard of LinkedIn. I know that a lot of people know what LinkedIn is. I don't think many people know how to use it.
You're right, because most people use it as a resume or a place to post a million videos. Very few people are making money posting all those videos.
Right.
Okay. If you were a name or a brand before, you probably are. But what Dawn created for us and what she taught me how to do is how to use it as an outbound tool to mine leads.
And for those of you who don't know, Dawn is Joe's wife and partner, and it's not many
49
people.
Years together.
Yeah, not many people sharper than Joe, but Dawn is one that I can point to.
She is, yeah. And so, because of not having celebrity when we got started in this game, and we still don't think about the word celebrity very much, because celebrity is where they're coming after you and paying whatever you want every day, and so that's not the case. we have to generate our prospect leads 21 ways. Not one, not two, but 21. And so we've mastered multiple ways of generating leads. Well, that's one of the components of what we teach. Okay. You have a question.
I do. And there is one thing that absolutely blows me away about what you do. And I want people to know this because, see, what Joe and Dawn do is incredibly logical. It's incredibly logical. I had a prospective client ask me the other day, it was on our second or third phone call, and he said, well, what happens if you suggest something, it's the consulting contract, and he said, what happens if you suggest something and, we don't want to do it, because you talk about being so different. And what if, and I said, look, here's the thing. I said, number one, I've done this long enough to be able to have experience and see what works and what doesn't. And I said, but I will never suggest something to you that I can't explain to you why this will work. And so number one, I don't think you will ever disagree with anything I suggest because I can explain to you why it will work. And number two, if you do disagree, don't do it. Okay? But I look at you and you come with that same kind of thing. Everything that you present, this is not one of those like, well, if I was that kind of person. I mean, these are very real things. And here's what I want people to know about Joe is if you look at somebody, Joe teaches cold calling. And if you want to talk about the greatest cold caller in the world, teaching you how to sell on the phone, cold call, two of his clients are TSA and the NFL Players Association. And he got both those contracts cold calling. Can you imagine cold calling the NFL Players Association, cold calling TSA? And he did, and he got the deals. That just still blows me away.
Well, as we've evolved, just like I've watched you get better and better, you're like fine wine. And I don't think there's anybody I can listen to that through a story can teach the principles you do. And you can do it because you've done it over and over and over. When we got started, we thought we were good.
I hear you. I know.
But because Dawn and I decided not to be all things to all people, we don't do leadership training. There's just stuff we won't do. We decided to be the best at helping people get in front of the person with the checkbook. So when we have our training, we're going to make out calls with the expressed idea to get an appointment. But it's going to be the appointment. It's going to be the client's decision. So we don't get no-shows or cancellations. So it's very strategic and the messaging is very clear. But that all sounds good. That's stage talk. Now you got to go in the room and do it for real. I will not take a sales training contract that we're not going to make the outbound call. Because just like the uniqueness I see in Andy Andrews, there's no one that can get on the stage of any type of audience and tie principles into a story. None. We decided you can't be great at everything, but what we decided was to have a process and procedure for the entire sales cycle with a consultative approach, not transactional, not get to yes or no as fast as possible, but very consultative. And we have worked with every type of person and every type of company. I mean, we've had them come in our room from 18 to 80.
And 18, well, Austin, I think, was 18 when he went to your boot camp in Orlando.
He was.
And he was shaking in his boots.
And he said, do I really have to do this? And he was the only person in the room that called me Mr. Pici. And I said, yes.
I just thought it was unbelievable because as a dad, I'm at home and I know what you do. And I know Austin was going to have to build a list, and you were going to have, everybody did, not just Austin. Everybody called people on their list and actually set up appointments right there at the boot camp. This is not theory, folks. It was unbelievable.
I believe that if you can equip people with the hardest thing that they're going to have to do. When this whole thing happened, the wheels came off. Somebody said to me, well, what changes for Joe? I said, maybe the way I deliver, but not our process. See, you can't teach talent and charisma. It's impossible. But you can teach a process, communications, and skills. And that's where we live.
Right. What has been the most, surprising example of a person that came in that you might have thought, oh no?
I can think of it right now. Many years ago, we had a man come who actually owns the trade name Spider-Man. He beat Marvel Comics for it. He does water intrusion for high rises. He came to our boot camp, very intense human being, very wealthy. At the end of the boot camp, he stood up and said, you guys don't know me, but I just spent 2 weeks with Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes in Maui for $50,000. This training is the best I've ever been to, and I just closed on $180,000 worth of work. Well, fast forward. He has licensed his methodology in water intrusion and teaches it at the University of Florida, right? So his goal was to get CEOs into his training, but also get appointments with CEOs to talk about water intrusion. So he calls me up. He says, I'm sending my administrative assistant, coach her on booking appointments and selling tickets on the phone.
I can hear this coming. Keep going.
She walks into the room, and please, ladies and gentlemen, don't take what I'm going to say wrong. I judge no one. She was a 74-year-old grandmother that was dressed like a 74-year-old grandmother. She was scared to death, and 4 months before, her background was she had worked at a bakery. In the room was a former NFL player who brought his wife, who's very successful in the apartment complex business. And he looked at me and said, Joe Peachy, you're stealing. You sold that woman a ticket. And I went, no, I didn't. Her boss sent her. But I'll tell you what I'll do. If she doesn't book appointments on day 3, I'll give you your money back.
Ooh.
And he looked at me, goes, you don't have to do that. Well, we did the coaching, we did the training for 2 intense days. Day 3, everybody walks in. We spread all the tables around so it doesn't sound like a call center. And he and his wife watched her. She went to the back of the room and she was shaking. And I looked at her and I said, Mary, you're going to be really good at this today because I'm the best there's ever been at this, and I'm not going to let you fail. And she looked at me, and I promise you, Andy, she sat down and she read a script. Andy, within 30 minutes, we do it for about 90 minutes. Within 30 minutes, she booked 12 appointments. She sold 14 tickets. Each time she would get an appointment, she would put the phone down and say, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just so scared. And she was scared for 90 minutes. And she walked out of there with appointments and sold tickets. And what I said to everyone in the room, this is not about Joe Peachy. This is about a process. This is about skills. This is about following a process. That was something we will never forget. The guy's name is Todd Scott. Todd Scott played many years ago, 6th round draft pick, NFL Pro Bowler. He has been to our boot camp twice. He's bringing his son back. And every time he talks to me on the phone, he goes, "You remember Mary?"
Hey, where can people contact you to read about your boot camp?
Couple places. They can go to my LinkedIn, which is Joe Peachy. They can go to our website, www.piciandpici.com. Also, I have a free gift for you. Download. Dawn just created a brand new LinkedIn. Take out your phone and type in the word Sales Edge, one word, and text it to 55678. Sales Edge, send it to 55678. Text it. It'll take you to a link. It'll take you to a splash page. When it hits that splash page, you get free downloads, one on LinkedIn, one on sales. Also, if you scroll further down, there's links to our podcast called Sales Edge. It's free. It's every Tuesday, every Thursday. It's about business. It's about, it's not politics. It's not religion. I don't know enough to know anything about that stuff. It's about growing a business. So that's how you can get me.
Okay.
And the most important way is if you want to have a complimentary cup of Joe, just call me at 407-947-2590.
We will put that on the show notes. We'll make sure all that is on the show notes. I am still, Austin and I talk about you a lot. And Austin tells me or reminds me about what you told him that day after he had made those calls. You told him, you said, "Austin, you have already done the hardest thing you will ever do in business."
It's true. I was just on an interview for a big radio station, and a woman asked me this question: "Why do so many people fail in business?" And I said, "Because they don't count the cost of what it's going to take to be successful before they sign on the dotted line. They buy the steak or the sizzle. They don't buy the steak. They don't know the price they're going to have to pay to have a business." So when Austin made those calls, I told him, "You got one big problem now." He said, "What?" I said, "If you do this every day, you're going to have to get a manufacturing plant."
Yeah.
I said, "Because you will outsell your capacity to make those handcrafted knives." And he looked at me and I said, "Austin, one of the calls you made is a person that's going to put in big orders consistently."
It was true. It was true. One of my funniest stories, and this doesn't really have anything to do with your sales training. This really has more to do, I suppose it has bearing, even though I would figure out a way to tell the story anyway. But I think it has bearing on life because you're talking about being blindsided and then continuing on to find your niche, to find great things to do. And, I had somebody ask the other day, they said, with all this pandemic, epidemic, death plague, whatever this is, they said, how do you deal in a life of uncertainty? And it just came to me. I said, look, we're always dealing in a life of uncertainty. On your best day in your life, it is still a life of uncertainty. You don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. It's just that right now you're just thinking about it more. Okay. But we're always living in a life of uncertainty. And so I won't tell everybody what program it was, but Joe used to be a football coach. And he was an assistant coach at a big school. And you are the only person that I've ever met that found out you were fired in USA Today.
Andy, when this thing happened, this thing that we're in, whatever they want to call it this week, Dawn and I looked at each other and we said, we may not have expected this, but we've been through so much.
Right.
We were through the 9/11. We were through the 2008. We were through the foreclosures. We've been through so much. So we said, okay, we have a toolbox here at Pici and Pici. It's called you ever watch the old submarine movies where
Sure.
here comes a destroyer and they ring the horn. It's dive, dive, and everybody knows where to go.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as the news hit that they were closing Florida, I hit the horn.
Right.
And we went into our process. One Tuesday in 30 minutes, I lost more money than I ever made my best 3 years of coaching. But the very next call happened because I think nobody knows what's around the corner. And I think if the one thing I'm seeing is how character reveals itself in these times.
Absolutely.
I don't know that these things create it. I think these things reveal it.
Reveal it. Absolutely. It's, it's the same with us. We've known each other long enough that, we've gone through the hurricane, we've gone through the oil spill, and it's amazing to me every time I see something that one group of people say, this is the worst thing that could have happened ever. I see another group of people that figure out how to make more money than they ever thought they'd make in their life, to do more than they ever thought they'd do, to become more than they ever thought they would become with the same set of circumstances, which is why it's so important, I think, to understand perspective. Because if you ask people, what is perspective? Most people say, well, it's how you see something. Do you see it half full? Do you see it half empty? It's how you see something. But that's only half right, because perspective is not just how you see something. It's how you choose to see it. That glass is not half full. It's not half empty. It just is.
Right.
But the way you choose to see it will lead your life down one pathway or another. And so choosing to see these things and keep our eyes open and keep our heads up, because the same thing with this. I know people right now that are making more money than they ever made in their entire life and would have never chosen this in a million years. But now, how grateful are they? So,
yeah. Well, in one of your books, you talked about having a decided heart. Dawn and I decided that this is what we're called to do, and we're going to play hard, no matter what. I remember Bear Bryant once said, if I'm going to fight with a bear, root for the bear. So that's kind of, it sounds cliche-ish, but, I was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and the guy says, Joe, what is the number one ingredient you think you need to be in business for yourself? I said, mental toughness.
Boy, that's true, isn't it?
Because if you looked at the course of being in business, Andy, how long have you been in business?
All my life.
Exactly. And wouldn't you agree that you've had great success, but wouldn't you agree that 8 out of 10 things in business you wish wouldn't have happened?
Oh, yeah. And literally, there was a point in time, I'm not sure I can say this now, but when I was, I'm sure 10 years ago, we looked and there was not a single significant thing I had ever done that I wasn't turned down for at least once before I got to do it. Not a single thing.
Yeah. And so if more bad things happen than good things, then why? Then if you're called and this is what you're going to do, then you do it. And you don't have situational ethics. My dad handshaked a contract with a guy, never signed a contract many 100 years ago, and they built apartment complexes in Jersey City. And today contracts are not worth the paper they're written on half the time. So things have changed, but we don't have to change.
Right.
And when your son walked into that room, I looked at him and I said, "You will book appointments." And he looked at me like, "Can I take the next plane home?"
I know. Oh my gosh.
But I was so proud of him. And I'm proud of every person that faces that giant. Because when they walk out of there, you talk about raising self-esteem. There is no self-help book on the planet that raises self-esteem. The only thing that raises self-esteem is you find the giant and you take it down. And you face your fear, you go anyway. And so that's why I love what I do, because I get to be with people every day that in sales, their number one fear is the phone.
Right. Well, buddy, I appreciate so much you being here. And we will do this again. This is, I just know people are going to eat this up, but I appreciate so much you being with us. We've got your information. We'll make sure it's on the show notes with everybody. You are the best, Joe. And that's something I've said for a while, but now I have the actual proof behind me. When I say you are the best, it's true. Globalgurus.org, #1 sales trainer, #1 boot camp and sales training program, #1 in the world. Joe Peachy. Thank you, buddy. Thank you for being here.
And thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. Hey, don't forget, Wisdom Harbor, that's HARBOUR, is having a 30-day free trial. And so if you haven't gone in and checked it out, you need to. People are absolutely loving this. Businesses are using Wisdom Harbor to build teams, to create cultural literacy with their staff. It's just showing up in a lot of different positive ways with businesses, with families and schools. It's wisdomharbor.com. And you guys, I would really appreciate if you haven't gone to iTunes to give us a nice review. I certainly wouldn't want you to go to iTunes to give us a bad review. But if you could give us a nice review, 5 stars. If you haven't gone, please go. You know, of course, that you can only review a particular podcast on iTunes one time, right? So if you haven't already, please make today your day. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing that tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, smile while you talk. Continue not to breathe around other human beings, but make sure you have a positive answer to the question, how's it going? And so until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Miniature pencils with giant erasers provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by the new pharmaceutical breakthrough, Damitol. Do you wake up in the morning and find yourself frustrated because you accidentally watched the news? A single tablet will reset your day. Did a jerk cut you off driving to work? Is the soy iced mocha latte all over your new suit? You might need 2 tablets to set things right. After hours of phone calls, reams of paperwork, and being told that management would not be giving out cost of living raises this year, don't go outside and shout at the sky. Just go to your local pharmacy and say, I'd like a large bottle of Damitol, please. Damitol comes in tablet, capsule, and the new licorice-flavored liquid. So don't let life get you down. Use the product you can ask for angrily. A couple of Demitols, and you'll feel better immediately.